We are joined by our senior analyst for Sekulow, Tulsi Gabbard, who has been very outspoken since this verdict came out yesterday. And it's great that we were able to get her for the show and get her take for all of you. Tulsi, as someone who has served as a member of Congress, you've got a New York Times bestseller out right now, For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind, which, again, New York Times bestseller. We've got it right here for people, so you get that wherever books are sold. But you said, Tulsi, ultimately, and I think for the American people, we're getting a lot of technical calls. And I want to tell people right away, I just got a text from my dad who said, at the appellate level of this, we'll file the ACLJ. So that's how ACLJ will engage right away at that level. So another legal question answered for you. But Tulsi, I think for what you said yesterday was key. The key to really winning this issue so that we don't become the banana republic that this makes us look like to the world, and these world leaders kind of mocking potentially President Trump, is voting for President Trump on November 5th. I mean, you said it that clearly yesterday.
Yes, it is. It is that clear. I'm not an attorney, so I won't get down into the weeds of the legal stuff like all of your other, you guys and your experts are weighing in on. To me, this really is one that should be of concern to every American. I've been listening to a lot of the commentary since the verdict came out yesterday, even from a lot of Republican leaders, and there's a lot of excitement, sadness that this is happening, but a lot of excitement to see how Republicans who maybe weren't all on the same page before are uniting and getting energized by understanding what's at stake. But my hope is that this is not and should not be a partisan issue. And this is the message that I hope to carry to Americans across the country, is that this is not about whether or not you're Republican or Democrat or an independent or libertarian. This is not about whether you like Donald Trump or not. Frankly, this isn't even about whether you like Joe Biden or not. We have to look at the facts of the consequences of what President Biden, his administration, and the weaponization of the Department of Justice has done and has resulted in. If we, the people, allow this to stand, if we allow the party that's in power to weaponize these institutions against their political opponent, which is Donald Trump, but also the many people, unfortunately, who also have targets on their backs, who are everyday Americans who are not running for office, but who happen to speak up in opposition to President Biden's agenda, or who happen to speak up not even just for President Trump, but for things like, making sure that, their little girls are able to participate in sports without having to be concerned about competing against biological boys, parents who are protesting at Board of Education meetings, pro-life protesters. A lot of the people that the ACLJ actually steps up to defend, if we allow this new norm to be set, this precedent to be locked in stone, which will happen unless Joe Biden is voted out of office, then not a single one of us as Americans will feel safe in being able to do what is fundamentally an American action, which is protest against our government, criticize our government without fear for our safety or without fear that our freedom may be taken away. And so while I see some Democrats and the talking heads like Rachel Maddow and the women of The View and others who are giddy in celebrating this guilty verdict, what's happening is bigger than this verdict yesterday and this singular case. What they don't realize, or what they're not showing, is that if we allow this to stand, they may be ones on the receiving end of a similar action. So again, my hope is that we can take a step back from the partisan politics, from the personalities, and really come together as Americans to protect and save our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, Tulsi, this is what I feel like. It's like, one, I think Donald Trump can be successful in court through appeals. Those could take, ultimately, that could take a long time after people vote in November. Maybe New York, an appellate division surprises us. But again, I don't count on that so much. But if the American people do like what you said, they speak up by voting November 5th for Donald Trump, there's a new calculation, which is even if you can use a DA or a special counsel to go after a political opponent, is it worth it, or are you just empowering that political opponent? And maybe that will kind of prevent us from having to take this to the next level, where the right has to start considering whether or not it has become the norm. And if we don't engage in this as well, that we will just we'll end up with all of our candidates and leaders getting convicted and thrown in prison potentially, or taken off the campaign trail. But our principles are too high. I don't think that can last for too long. But then you are a banana republic, and I go to this because you also serve in our military, and you've fought alongside in countries where this is the norm, and we try to go in, and it was like what Senator Rubio said too. We try to lecture countries on this about not using the legal system as a political weapon, and here we have it in the United States. But we also have a very quick opportunity on November 5th, I think, to shut it down.
We really do, and this is the key. Is whether the again, I'm not an attorney or a legal expert by any means. It seems like this should be overturned through appeal, but to me, that's kind of a side point, or that very much is a side point at this juncture, because there are still many other cases and trials that Donald Trump is facing. And they did this intentionally. They didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket and cross their fingers and hope that they would get a guilty verdict, which is why we're seeing so many other charges being levied against Trump, both at the state and the federal level. Whether these charges, whether they are successful or not, it's a side point to the fact that they have done this at all. And I think that's really the point that I'm trying to drive home, is that the fact they have done this and they hope they can get away with it is what poses the greatest danger to our freedom. The only way we fix this for our country and for our democracy is if each of us as Americans takes to heart and makes our own decision that, again, set the partisan politics aside, the disagreements, so you don't like the way Donald Trump talks about certain things or this or that. We have to decide ourselves that there's nothing more important than protecting our republic and protecting our freedom, period, full stop. Just like you and I, Jordan, we talk about freedom of speech, and we've got to protect our right to free speech, even when we don't like that speech. This foundation of free speech and freedom and the rule of law is what is at stake right now, and we have to punish President Biden and those other politicians who are putting their own personal or political power ahead of the Constitution, and put out that resounding voice that we stand as one for freedom in America.
Well, Tulsi, I wanted to bring that up, slogan very quickly, but as we head to break, is your book is obviously about specifically leaving the Democratic Party behind because your eyes were open. Do you feel like moments like this, and I kind of could see it a little bit on social media, where this stuff starts happening and people who were historically maybe voting Democrat or voting, even, like you said, even people that don't necessarily support President Trump can look at this, and this could be a bit of a wake-up call?
Yes, I hope it is. And again, this is anecdotal. I was scrolling on X last night, and it was heartening to see how many people were saying, I never would have thought I would vote for Donald Trump, but now I know that I am. So we just have to make sure that this doesn't become a 24-hour news cycle and then people forget what's really going on, because this is not the end. This is not anywhere near the end. This is going to continue for the next 5.5 months until Election Day on November 5th. We, the people, have to keep our eye on the ball and focus on what is most important. Punish President Biden, send him home, vote for Donald Trump so we can begin this important work of correcting course and saving our democracy and defending our freedom.
Tulsi Gabbard, as again, an analyst here for us on Sekulow. Her new book, For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind, a New York Times bestseller. Tulsi, thank you for taking the time today and to take us outside the legal process for a little bit and talk just about politics and about how we can save our country. We appreciate you giving that analyst
Thank you
analysis
so much.
here. Thanks, Tulsi.